guys, welcome to the second episode of Painting Warhammer with Oils. So today we've got a Stormcast Eternal guy. He's one of the easy build models, and we're going to paint his cloak. So we're going to go for a red cloak, and all I've done so far is obviously I've built him. I've primed him with some Vallejo grey, just because I find the neutral colour of the grey to be quite good, and that is it. I let it cure, so this has actually been sat there a couple of days. I'd recommend, if you're going to do a painting session, prime and then leave about 15 minutes, 15-20 minutes for the acrylic to cure. All I've got in front of me is some Abtielung, let me grab it, Abtielung Bitume, which is that one, some Abtielung Warm Red, Abtielung Yellow, and Abtielung Buff, and that's it. In here, in my little pot, I've got some of the matte thinner, and here is my fancy palette. So a bit of cardboard with parchment paper on it, and obviously I've got some Abtielung brushes. You don't need those, you could go for these sort of things, just generic craft brushes from the craft store, or you could use your Citadel brushes, whatever. Always recommend, until you know how best to clean your brushes, use separate brushes for oils and acrylics, because the oils and acrylics don't react very well if you directly add them. So if I was to add acrylics, it would not mix well with this, because water based and oil based. But if you know how to clean your brushes in between uses properly, it's not so much of a big deal. But yeah, I still use a set of brushes separately. That's up to you though. So our first step, we want a little bit of the thinner. Grab some of our bitume. We don't want it too thin, and we'd literally, no worries, just slapping this in to the shadow areas. So we'll get up there. You'll find one thing with oils is you might have to go back to the palette a bit more often. But yeah, don't worry too much. We want a nice coat on it, and making sure we get into all the shadow areas. So we want it to be darker under there, obviously, and around this and around here. And all we're going to do, not even going to go back in there, just literally going to go on here to wipe it off. Now, grabbing some of my warm red, just make sure it's nice and flowy into the grey areas. Don't worry if you start to mix it into the brown, we kind of want that to start happening. And literally like this. Just keep going in. Catching all the higher areas, the raised areas where we want kind of highlighting. But this is our first layer, so nothing to panic about yet. Looks a little bit of a mess so far, but that is fine. We want that up there. That's an edge. So then we'll just clean our brush in the thinner a bit. Just leave that a second. Then we'll grab, so you'll notice this brush is quite flat. It's got nothing on it, and then we just want to very lightly start blending it together. So you see I'm doing downward strokes for this because that's how I want it to start flowing. And that's starting to merge it all together. And then we'll just wipe that off. Now, so the gloss is going to be a bit of a killer to see, but obviously oil paints, when you put them on and they're wet, are very glossy. But you can see we've kind of started to blend it all. Then we're going to get our warm red again, going to be a bit neater. Aiming I'm keeping my strokes going downwards because that's where I want the flow to go. And then notice how I keep going back to keep it stronger. Keep the paint colour, the red colour strength, because obviously it will naturally blend on the brush as well because it's still wet. So by adding an extra bit, you're making sure you're keeping that brighter red colour as opposed to the blended red and bitumy. And then we get rid of that. We're going to keep this smaller brush and just at the edges run it down because that'll start to blend the edges out so there's no harsh edges. We want a nice blend all the way through. And now I'm going to go straight, even with this on my brush, into the yellow. You'll notice it starts to mix. Just don't want it too harsh, so I'll take some of that off. Straight into the highest areas. Hopefully you can start to see the colour transition. Again, I apologise for the shininess, but that's something I have to figure out with the oils. See if I can find a way to deaden that in the recording. And now in those areas I kind of want to blend it across a bit. And then into our buff. We just want that along the edges. And the highest areas. Again, get rid of that and we start blending it out. So let's see if I can get this in better focus for you. Come on. So hopefully you can start seeing the colour variation going on there. So then we'll grab a little bit more bitumy where we want it darker. So I've actually started got it into a flat shape as opposed to a point. So I can drag the flat line into the shadow and then with it still on the brush start blending it. Along the edge of this. Note this is all still wet, so if I want to blend higher, so if I wanted to go further with my blending, so I want to go lighter here for some reason, I can literally just start blending that in. Let's carry on doing that actually. There we go, so you can see it here. So there's a bit of a harsh edge still, so literally do that and it's gone. It's all just blended. So all those people who struggled for years trying to figure out how to wet blend and loaded brush and all that. And how quick is that to get a blended colour in, like a blended cloak. What I'll do is I will get this to dry. So heat does help. You don't want to blast it too long because that can crack the oil paints. I've not had it happen yet, but I have heard it can happen. So a little bit of heat, and then I put a spray varnish over it. So in this case, the one I've got is just Games Workshop's old Purity Steel. Just happen to have a can of that around. I just blast that over. I'd recommend waiting for a few hours if you're using the Abtielung, maybe a day, so you can carry on, do other models, do other parts before putting the seal over it. I mean, I'm going to be cheeky and just do this now so we can show off the effects quicker. But yeah, seal over it, and that'll matte. Like, these dry quite matte anyway because of the climate I'm in. It takes forever for mine to dry. Other people have it dry within like a few hours or 24 hours. For me, just because of how I paint, where I paint, it just takes a long time. But a varnish over it, I've had no problems. And that would be my recommendation anyway. So yeah, I will do that and show you the matted out result so you can see it better without the shine. Well, and there we go. So I have done the spray, dried it, and I hope you can see. And that's created quite a nice looking cloak very quickly. I think it was a whole 11 minutes. And if you wasn't blabbering on like myself, then you could probably do it even quicker. But obviously, you could put more colours into this. You could add a magenta into the shadows, even some greens and stuff, or some browns, light browns around the bottom to indicate dirt, anything. And now I've sealed it as well, I can literally go over the top with acrylics if I wanted. So if I wanted to do freehand with acrylic paints, I could do that because it's safe to do so. So I hope you're enjoying this, and I've got many more planned. So hopefully see you on the next episode, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Thanks guys.